In today's video, we journey into the mind of one of Scotland's many Unionist commentators. Stephen Daisley is a columnist for the Kilted Daily Mail. In particular, though, we're looking at a piece he wrote for Andrew Neil's Spectator magazine called "Britain is no country for young men." In it, he argues that the UK is a failing country and advises young people to emigrate to the colonies as soon as possible, lamenting that he never. It's difficult to disagree with his scathing assessment of Westminster, but advocating for Scotland to remain a part of that same failing polity while telling its young people to leave seems like an uncomfortable combination of stances to take. The Union is portrayed as this glorious 300 years plus of shared history, ruling the serf, colonising the turf. Yet poverty has always remained a problem, generation after generation. There have been many grim periods of emigration, of population loss. Are we really to suffer another? Are young people so energised in 2014 not more minded towards change here, at home, for themselves and their families? Anyway, here's Stephen Daisley's take.
If I had to give one piece of advice to Britons under 30, it would be this. Go. Leave. Skedaddle. Get one of those work visas for New Zealand or Canada and start a new life. Fret not over the details. Those can be worked out once you're there. Don't make excuses, don't defer, don't delay. Trust me, you'll regret it one day. Think of Britain as the creepy, cobweb-bound manor from 1,000 schlocky horror movies. Get out while you still can. Aptly for a horror flick, the call is coming from inside the House. In delivering his autumn statement to the Commons, the Chancellor announced the biggest ever increase in the state pension. This rise, a fulfillment of the triple lock pledge, will mean an extra $870 for every pensioner from next April. Addressing the millions of pensioners who will benefit from this measure, Jeremy Hunt said, "Now and always, this government are on your side." You could quote those 9 words to anyone born after 1980 and they would be able to guess, with a 100% accuracy rate, which demographic they were addressed to. The Conservative Party has no principle, no policy, no purpose, except for taking money from workers and using it to buy the votes of boomers. It wouldn't be so bad if they targeted the money at boomers on low incomes. But that would involve prioritizing those most in need, and that seems to be anathema to the Tories. It's not even that they cling to the outdated notion of pensioners as the poorest age group, as some in the general populace still do. No, it's simply that the Conservative Party cannot pass a wealthy person without trying to make him even wealthier. The Chancellor did announce an uplift to the national living wage of 92p per hour, and while any increase is to be welcomed, the new 1042 rate is still 48p less than the real living wage. The rise must be seen in the larger economic context in which millennials and Generation Z live their lives. They are the most extensively educated generations in Britain's history, and yet they are living through what the TUC calls the longest and harshest pay squeeze in modern history. Average wages fell this year by 4.5%, the largest drop since 2001. For those born in the late 1980s, career progression has either stagnated or gone into reverse. Millennial men were twice as likely to start work in lower-paid jobs than the generation before them, and they are taking longer to climb the career ladder. Millennial women entered the labor market at the same occupational level as late boomers or early Gen Xers born 2 decades before them. Median wealth for a millennial is 20% lower in their early 30s than it was for a Gen Xer born a decade earlier. Robert Menzies said the home was the foundation of sanity and sobriety, and the indispensable condition of continuity, whose health determines the health of society as a whole. No such continuity for millennials. In 1989, 51% of 25 to 34-year-olds owned their own home. Today, the figure is 28%. The social costs of delaying or denying home ownership, less marriage, deferred parenthood, cultural atomization, are of acute concern to social conservatives. The economic costs are an issue to those who prioritize growth. Economies of precarious private renters are likely to be less innovative, more risk-averse, and will struggle to attract skilled migrants. Not being especially bothered about social cohesion or economic dynamism, the Tories aren't troubled by such matters. What should trouble them is the political cost. A generation with nothing to conserve will have no reason to vote Conservative. The Conservative Party has not stood idly by in the face of these destructive trends. It has muscled in on the action, appointing itself the parliamentary wing of NIMBYism, and keeping the housing supply choked in the interests of its older rural and semi-rural voter base. The Tories once imagined themselves the party of home ownership, but today they are the party of homeowners. Homeowners content to see others denied the same opportunity. They have allowed Britain to become a crumbling, sclerotic gerontocracy, the world's first retirement home, to have a seat on the UN Security Council. Younger people must not speak of these things. To do so risks accusations of rudeness or disrespect, as though objecting to damaging societal developments is a personal insult to those who have benefited from them. To point out that, at $116 billion a year, the state pension is by far the most expensive welfare benefit, and the second largest spending commitment in the entire UK budget is to be met with sputtering rage. To talk about how prohibitively expensive it is to buy a house is to get dazzlingly clueless counsel about avoiding takeaways and holidays abroad. Deliveroo is the reason you can't buy a house, not the fact that they cost 9.1 times the average salary today compared to 3.5 times in 1997. Not all boomers are oblivious, of course, but it sticks in the craw to be lectured on manning up and practicing frugality by the most pampered generation in history, in particular those who have pulled up the ladder behind them. No government lasts forever, even if some feel like it, and this one will give way eventually to different faces in different rosettes. If the polls are anything to go by, an alternative government is on the cusp of power, and surely that will change things. This is more cope than hope. There are people who see a prime minister in Keir Starmer. It escapes me, but that hardly matters. There are people who see Jesus in their shredded wheat, and who am I to tell them otherwise? But the notion that a Labour Party desperate to regain, then retain power, will make an enemy of the most powerful voting bloc in the land is wishful. Unlike the Tories, Labour understands the plight of young Britons. It even cares about their situation. But it has neither the economic radicalism nor the political guts to do anything transformational. This is why millennials have resigned ourselves to our lot in life. Watching our youth slip away as we become 40-something singles and 50-something renters, a middle-aged precariat that had the misfortune to be young in an old country. It's too late for us, but not for those of you in Generation Z. You still have a chance. Britain is a nation in the late Sunday afternoon of its life, comfy slippered and softly snoozing, but there are young countries out there. Countries where you can work for yourself rather than the social care budget, where you can achieve those indispensable conditions of continuity that Britain denies you. I speak from cold, hard experience. My dream was Australia. I never pursued it. It is my sorest regret. Don't be like me. Don't regret. If you're young enough, fit enough, and brave enough, don't settle for being a dutiful helot to a surly Jerusia. Get out, get somewhere, and get a life you can be proud of. Stephen Daisley.